I have for the first one time in 4 or 5 months, I have a DOT update.
Really?
Lawsuit I'm saying with the Supreme Court. Yeah,
On a Saturday?
it's just our group.
Oh.
Yeah, it's four people, and
Okay. You're tuned into NWCLV.FM through my lens with Frank Hawkins.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us here at Through My Lens. And I have a good friend of mine I'd like to introduce, who I'm going to let introduce Doug, and then we're going to ask him a bunch of questions. But Mark, I've known Mark for 4, 5, 6 years. Mark is in the marijuana business in the great state of Nevada. He's also a cultivator, and he's got some new technology that he's going to introduce into the Nevada market soon.
Yep.
And I think people will be excited to hear and see what he's doing. But Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, and then you could talk about Doug, and
Thank
then
you. We've actually known each other probably going on 8 years.
Yeah.
Time flies by really quick when you're having fun. Frank and I, we threw our hat in to get licenses way back in the day before I thought it was Politico, and then
Before you learned it was political.
before I learned it was Politico, and it's really it's a tough industry. If anybody thinks this is easy, it's not easy at all. There's just so much regulation and work and competition and restriction, and Frank's done a terrific job, and he's opening his second location. Proud of him.
Thank
We're
you.
proud of you doing
Thank
that. I dropped out for a little bit. I had Greenleaf Farms, and during the pandemic, a lot of things shut down. I had to reevaluate the business and said I'm only going to come back in the business if we have something different that no one else has. So we created the concept of the Cannabis Technology Center, CTC, which is a combination of disruptive technology for growing, extracting, producing cannabis products combined with a media center. So where you have your podcasting studio here, we're going to have 2 podcasting studios on our second floor and a green screen and a virtual set. And we're going to also be focusing on education as well as selling the products within it. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited. There'll be a lot of awesome stuff to show in maybe 6 months from now. So Doug is a lifelong friend. We grew up across street from each other in a place called Park Forest, which is an all-American city south of Chicago. And I'm having my 60th birthday party.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Doug came in to perform, and we got about literally 18 people coming in from out of town, and half of them I've known even as long as Doug or longer.
Right.
So it's going to be an awesome time. And, Doug's been suffering from Parkinson's, and I've been watching my dear friend having to struggle with life's challenges. And he talks about how powerful cannabis has been. And since he's coming in town, couldn't fly with it. I said, I want you to come over and to, Nevada Wellness Center and,
Right.
Meet Frank, and and I always liked the fact that you put medical in front of recreational by
Yep.
even your branding, Nevada Wellness Center. So Doug's here. Welcome to Nevada and Nevada Wellness Center and Frank's house.
This is actually Mark's second empire.
Oh, we had another one
Yeah,
before?
another one is, I'm about 5 years older than Mark. So in Illinois, when I was 19, it was legal to drink.
Okay.
And Mark could find pot. So
Way back in the day?
yeah, he was the man, and living right down the street. And I coincidentally, we both met occasionally in front of the local convenience store, and he would carry my groceries home. And
Well, that's because he bought me beer when I wasn't old enough.
I think everybody got the gist of that, but maybe I'm being too vague. But yeah, I used to buy them booze, and he'd give me pot, and that was our symbiotic relationship. It didn't look good for me what I'm doing, and any aspect of it, but it looked good for him.
Right, right.
He got the booze and everything, so. But it's just kind of funny that here we are, 50 years later.
Isn't that a blessing?
And he's doing the same thing.
Still messing around with that weed, huh?
doing good at it too. He's got great friends and
Yeah.
business, so he's not too far from it.
Talk to us a little bit about your Parkinson. How long you had it? When did you get it? And tell us a little bit about your everyday life with it.
Well, there's a good argument that I was born with it. I mean, I guess everybody's born with whatever they have eventually, but I was born without a sense of smell. And I didn't know that I didn't know that was different for a long time until, like, you go on vacation and we'd go by this plant called the Inca plant. Everybody rolled the windows and Inca stinka, Inca stinka. And being not wanting to be left out, I'm doing the same thing. So nobody even picked up on the fact that I couldn't smell.
Right.
And there's probably 30 families somewhere in the United States that tell their children a funny story every once in a while about the little boy that lived in their neighborhood that argued that farts don't stink. So
You were one of
I
them?
lost that argument a lot of times. Anyway, we were all in the garage together, and I said, "Come on, guys, let's admit it. The farts don't really stink. There's no Santa Claus. There's no Easter Bunny."
Right.
And they just looked at me like, ugh. And of course I learned the foolishness of that, and I hear it every once in a while when I run into people. But it's like, that's serious business if you're thinking the medical side of it, and if you would have taken the definition of manic depressive, that would be a perfect example of my childhood, because I was a terror. I was happy when I was supposed to be laughing when I should be crying, and crying when crying at weddings and laughing at funerals, kind of stuff.
Well, now was that because of Parkinson's, or that was just
It
you were different?
It didn't fit. I didn't fit any mold, and first they say it's genius, and now I'm a lazy genius because I'm not doing this. I fell in every one of those pitfalls and stereotypes.
What kind of student were you in school?
I couldn't believe how good I could do without doing any homework. I never got to ditch. That's one thing that was very strange about me. My parents were very.
No hooky, huh?
I had an older brother, so they were hip on that. They didn't. So I didn't ditch. So just osmosis, I got through school and did fairly well. I mean, for someone that really gave very little effort. But they didn't give me music until till high school, and then I got into choir. Up to that point, I got to sit in the room next to the people in choir and be taught what a violin does and what an oboe does. And I'm like, how did I get this gig? So I mean, I think kids today, don't get enough gym and don't get enough music. And I think if they had given me that, I would have been the best student there was.
So you weren't a bad kid in school, were you?
No.
So if you didn't ditch, did you get? Were you a
bad.
quiet kid, or did
No,
you cause problems,
no,
or
I
what kind of grades? A's and B's, or just passing grades? Or?
B's and C's. I'm not going to say I was a straight A student,
Right.
but I wasn't the worst there was. I just think things are funny,
Yeah.
and I used to get a kick out of making somebody laugh in class and get them in trouble for laughing.
Right.
Just that was just my MO, and it's
Yeah.
still my MO.
Yeah.
I like to keep the audience laughing and then shock them that I can come through with quality music and not make a joke out of that.
So did you end up going to college?
Went to SIU for a few years. It basically taught me that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I still hadn't gone into music. I was leading the musical my senior year in high school.
Okay.
George M. Cohan, sung and dance, man. My mother thanks you, my father thanks you. That kind of shit. And I didn't even get to be the famous guy that was the lead in the musical because 5 days after I graduated, I was in SIU summer school.
Right.
Because I didn't do well in the ACT and I had to go through summer school to get into school.
Right.
And I just basically learned how to deal pot down there. I learned how to get food when the food was inedible. I lived in a place called Stevenson Arms.
Yeah.
And I still have the meal tickets as the year of the worst eating I've ever had.
Oh my God.
This is a cauldron of bubbling, greasy stuff every day. And we used to be first in line, try to be first in line so you could get the bowl of peanut butter or the 5 slices of American cheese they put out.
Oh my
And you
God.
got that, you were the king of the cafeteria that day. And it was just insane. No, I didn't. It was a waste of money, a waste of time. I shouldn't have gone to college. I ended up going to the railroad and worked for the railroad for 3 years. I was a Gandy
3
dancer.
years only?
Well, I spiked rail for a year. I think that counts about 10. And then I had 2 years in the food and liquor department where you just saw people my age now drinking their breakfast, lunch, and dinner
Yeah.
on the liquor room at the commissary. And you know, I went there, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You know, I thought I was pretty advanced in my partying and stuff. These guys were drinking cognac for breakfast.
Yeah.
I just made me gag just even think about it. And 6 months later, that was me.
Yeah.
It was just the thing. And 2 years into it, I couldn't get a band together. They'd work me 13 days in a row until you get the mandatory day off. I couldn't do anything. I'm making $600-700 a week.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money back in those
Huge.
A lot
days.
of money.
Yeah.
And when I had my one
Was that
day
a
off,
union
I
job,
would kill
or-
everybody with my partying. You know,
Yeah.
I'd had hundreds of these transportation bottles from work and just lay waste to a party. And that was my reputation. This gigantic partier, where it really wasn't. It was just when I came out,
Yeah.
it was big time. And I've been a musician. I had a great band together, and personal issues with band members, not with me, with each other, split up our neighborhood band, which was in my late 20s, and my dad, of course, was like, "What are you gonna do with yourself now? You can't be doing this rock and roll stuff. You end up like what did he say?
So was that in the 70s or 80s?
70s.
Okay, 70s.
And
It would have been 80s.
no, yes, that was about 85, 86. And there was I couldn't say that, hey, Mick Jagger just did a gig and he's 80 years old. Mick Jagger was kind of like, as they all were, kind of like,
Queen.
they weren't what they used to be.
Yeah.
And there was no, the Beatles quit and they were all 30 years old.
Yeah.
Or just about 30 years old. So there
Yeah.
was no anything to compare it to. And my dad would just, he said, you gotta get a real job, you gotta do it. So I went and got a job at Smith Barney in downtown. I worked at the Board of Trade and tried to be a serious guy, and then went to New York and was gonna work at the Board of Options there. My brother ended up not coming through with the job, which was good, because he was leaving the business, and I just, I got frustrated, and I left New York, and I came back here and put a band back together, and basically been trying to be a professional musician my whole life.
So that's your love.
That's
That's
it.
your purpose.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
my one focus,
Yeah.
and my one goal.
And you play which instruments?
Piano, guitar. I write my own material. And I got enough to if I could sell one, I got 100 to follow it.
Yeah.
That's the story of my life so far.
You sing too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in 1994, after 4 years of seeing specialists and stuff for this arm, which used to weigh 100 pounds, now it weighs about 1,000 pounds.
Mm.
And it was bothering my piano playing, and I could feel sluggishness. I'm going to see all these guys, and it was when Bo Jackson was going through his necropsy, or whatever it was, it's on his hip.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And he's getting a hip replacement. I'm thinking I'm going to need a shoulder replacement. I'm freaking out. And I went and saw a couple specialists, and I went and saw this final guy, and he said, I see who you've been seeing, and they're right. There's nothing wrong with your arm. There's nothing wrong with your shoulder. There's nothing wrong with you. He goes, have you seen a neurologist? I said, I'm not crazy. It weighs 100 pounds. I'm not crazy. It's a real thing. He goes, no, I'm not talking about a psychologist. He's a neurologist. He said, he's kind of like the mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you if there's anything wrong
With your
in the
nerves.
way things were working. I said, no, of course. And he goes, anybody in your family got Parkinson's? Boom. That was my moment. My dad had it. My grandfather, we think, had it. My aunt definitely has it. She was, at the time, was curled up in a state hospital in Tennessee, and literally had drained the entire family of all their finances and stuff to keep her alive.
Wow.
She had diabetes too, and they had to give her 2 shots every day and roll her over and all this stuff to a person that basically didn't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
That I thought was my future, So
So how old were you when you when they told you you had
I was
Parkinson's?
36.
And you are now?
I'm 64.
Okay.
So it's been 29 years.
Wow.
And what happened was, my dad's biggest fear was to one of us would get his shaking disease, because he'd sit on his chair and his hand would go like that, and he goes, "You see it? Did you see it? I just did all by myself." And I'm like, "Yeah, I saw that, Dad. You know, it was kind of creepy." And that's the way it went. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my wife. My wife was 6 months pregnant. And what was it going to do to tell her?
Yeah.
Well, this is to tell anybody. I tell somebody that they're going to run around everybody that I've got this neurological disease that is no cure, and it's progressive, and it's working on me,
Yeah.
you know. And so who's going to be in my band now? Who's going to commit 6 months from now, a year
Right.
from now,
Yeah.
or any kind of
All that
commitment at all?
stuff is going through your head.
It's all that went in my head,
Mhm.
and there was no internet, there was no computers. There was 1994 was, you know, you go to the library if you wanted to learn about something.
Yeah.
Well, the chances that I'd find anything that was useful there, I went, and it was basically a waste of time. And I just went about my business. All I did was slow up my right arm, and I just, you know, do a couple more speed bag on the right
Yeah.
arm, and that was my motive for 12 years, was not being caught. And I was finding out through those years that when I smoked Kush, now see, I didn't know the difference between sativa and
Right.
indica.
Yep.
I smoked this Kush, and it would give me the ball of energy that I wanted, because you know, it just, who wants to be falling asleep and
Right.
you know, and drinking coffee just to enjoy the buzz.
Right.
This was like a combination, and they even called it the cocaine strain.
Mhm.
You know, that it gives you that wonderful feeling and energy to do positive things. And I knew in my heart that when I smoked that stuff, I shook.
Right.
And I shook in a different way than you. It's not like being cold. It's like they call it restless leg syndrome, for a better lack of a better term, as far as I'm concerned. I had that in my entire body.
Mhm.
So it's like the fidgets. We call it fidgets. Where you sit and you couldn't not sit still.
Right.
You know, watching a movie at the end of the night, you know, your legs are going crazy, and you get people rubbing for you and stuff. I thought it was just a normal thing. Well, my whole body had that, and it got way worse when I'd smoke. And
It got worse?
oh yeah,
Or is it-
the symptoms got way worse, and
Okay.
they became pronounced to the point where I
Right.
couldn't smoke anymore around
Right.
people. It was embarrassing.
Smoke
And-
marijuana,
Yeah.
not cigarettes.
Right, I never
Okay.
smoked cigarettes.
Okay.
Which, you know, a quick side note, my brother never had any symptoms, nor my sister, and they smoked cigarettes.
Mm.
There's a definite connection between nicotine and how Parkinson progresses. And they're even talking about putting a nicotine patch on me to battle the dyskinesia I get from the medication, the side effects
Mhm.
and such, that and slow the progression of Parkinson still at this point. So it's all conjecture and theory and stuff like that, but it's kind of hit home for me. 'Cause
Right.
Have you tried any of those little vape pens that have like 3% nicotine in them that are flavored?
No, as a matter of fact, I don't even like the idea of vaping, because my son did a little bit of it, and he's still having trouble breathing and coughing.
Oh,
And
sure.
of course, he had that virus too, but you know, where does one begin and the other end? So
Mhm.
So you know, Doug, I don't know if I told you, but my aunt died of Parkinson's when she was probably in her early 50s. You know, and all I did was see her, this frail person in bed and shake and stuff, and you don't have that. At least I don't. Times I see it, I don't see you.
Ho now.
But the reality, what the whole thing is, and that's how most people that have it. I mean, you've been fighting this off and living a semi-normal life. You know, you've for years, for almost 30 years now. And how?
I know when to hide. I know when I don't go out when I'm having a bad day.
Mhm.
And I have bad days. I have days when If I don't get enough sleep, it doesn't matter how much drugs you take, don't know how much pot you smoke. If you have no sleep, that's probably the most important thing to anybody in Parkinson's that there is, and that's one of the biggest problems that we all have. We all have insomnia. We all are fighting it, and it's
So-
like
Let me ask you a question. How many hours of sleep do you need to feel okay for the next day?
10.
You need to sleep 10 hours. Can you
No,
sleep straight?
10 minutes.
Oh,
It's like this morning.
10 minutes.
You need 10 minutes
How
of sleep?
long did I fall asleep with the guitar in my hand?
He was playing Brown Sugar by the Rolling Stones. All of a sudden I heard that he stopped playing and I peeked my head downstairs and he fell asleep literally with the guitar in his hand in the same position he was playing. And then I woke you up. He said, "Oh, I do it all the time."
That's how I wake up, and I wake up refreshed.
So 10 minutes can,
Change everything.
really?
Yeah.
And how long can you go before you need sleep again? And does the
If I don't
Parkinson
eat-
not let you sleep?
If I don't eat, I can stay awake all night, every night.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Eating
the
is
Parkinson's not allowing you to sleep? Or is that something else?
I think, I'm hearing the same things from a lot of people with Parkinson's,
Yeah,
but I don't know that they have the same experience with opiates that I did.
okay.
And they got me going on them things. That's why I don't take pain pills now, because doctors chastise me and saying, I asked the doctor about going this trip. He said, "I'm not giving you any pain pills for it either." I said, "You've never given me one. You've never given me one. I'm not taking any pain pills. I don't take anything." He goes, "You don't take any?" You don't take anything? And he looked right. You sure don't. You turn it down. Yeah, I turned it down because I had told you. They got me so stuck on that stuff. They had to switch me over to OxyContin.
Oh, no.
And OxyContin is, you have to go to rehab to get
Yeah.
off it. Well, I didn't, because I had a 2 and a 4-year-old kid, Mr. Mom at home.
Yeah.
I just went cold turkey, and I literally was awake for 7 days.
You were also telling me, we were discussing like using cannabis with the prescription drugs actually has reduced significantly the amount that they're prescribing to
Well,
you.
wait, we're a little bit ahead of it. That's what I said. I was pretty much not smoking, and when I did, it was sativa. And the guy came over to my house and he brought this brown stuff. Come on, like Mexican from the old days, you know.
Yeah.
He gave me this crap for it. He goes, "No, it's really good. Give it a try." I'm pissed. I'm over there. I can't even. Trying to light it, and they're all kind of help you, and that makes it even worse, you know. I'm not, leave me
Yeah.
alone. Yeah. Did a couple puffs of it, no big deal, you know. I sat down, and 5 minutes later, they're surrounding me saying, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. Like, leave me alone, you know." And I said, "No, man, we thought you had a stroke." They literally thought I had a stroke. I was like, "Well," I said, "You're so still." And that's when I really realized that not only was my hands, it was that inner noise that you didn't even know was there. You didn't even know what was going on until it was gone. I was like, "Holy shit!" I feel absolutely still. I'm like no tremor, no, you know, where one part of your body works against the other.
Yeah.
No electrical impulse in this ankle and this hip at the same time.
Mhm.
Weird shit, you know. Just all that stuff's happening to me all the time, and it's all gone. And I just sat there in amazement. And from that moment on, the first thought I had was, "Where's my piano?
Mhm.
I can play it. I can play it right now." I was like, I was tripping. And I started doing that on a regular basis. I stopped smoking it for enjoyment, and then I choose my moments. That if I have a gig like Mark's party coming up, I can say with pretty much confidence that I'm gonna be there and I'll be able to play.
Right.
And that blows the community's mind, because they all are, you know, taking the advice, and they're packing it up, I think, sooner than they should. And I think there's too much coddling and I don't know, letting people quit on themselves.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to me, this whole go on a tour of the country to play for people with Parkinson's, to show them not that, just that I can do it, but to show them the attitude I do it with.
Yeah.
Show them that, you know, that this is fun.
What have the doctors said that know that you're using marijuana, which means you use less opioids? And what do they say about the fact that you don't have tremors and you are able to play? Do they have reactions one way or another?
Yeah, dead silence.
Dead silence.
They don't want to hear it because it's not incorporated in their
What they know
in
in
their treatment. And I don't know why. I haven't asked them yet. I figure that conversation is probably going to end up being the last conversation.
Yeah.
As I'm going to find a new neurologist.
Right.
Because he's a nice guy, but he basically just expedites my drugs, things I need to maintain. And pot, it's taken. I've cut my meds in half. See, the way the meds work is it doesn't just, you don't just take dopamine. Dopamine has to be manufactured by you, and there's only a few. When my first symptoms came up, they say you're 80% gone. 80% of those cells are dead and gone. And this medicine just brings the rag, makes them work overtime. So I don't take that at night. I'll shake all night. It doesn't bother me a bit, as I don't want them stoking the furnaces, just so when I wake up at night, I can go to the bathroom without, freaking out or shaking or whatever. It's like, I never saw that. That's an argument I had with them at first, because they said it takes me too long to recoup myself for the average person. I have time, so I can ease back into the medicine that I didn't take all night, where other people are getting up and still going to work. I tell them that I took the carbidopa, which is a non time release, along with Rytary, which is time release, and that was my idea of how I would slip back in the door quicker in the morning. And the doctor listened to me, prescribed it, and that's exactly what I do every day. I take the carbidopa, which is instantaneous. It was right there. It doesn't last long, and then by the time it goes away, the time release is kicked in, and it's not like falling off a cliff. And I don't have that dyskinesia. I don't have a lot of problems. No. And that's all because of the pot. Because I know that the next dose, even though it doesn't have the carbidopa, I can't do that. I can't continue to do that.
Right.
Your body doesn't respond. At least I'm told that. I'm going to believe him because for now I don't need to not believe him. And that's when I'll smoke. Either if I've got a rehearsal, I will smoke in the afternoon at my 5 hours then, and if I've got a gig, I smoke at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and I go till midnight. And I couldn't do that.
It is a medicine.
What I was doing before the pot was taking 3 Rytaries every time. So it was 3, 6, 9, 12 a day on the days I was playing, 9 on the days I wasn't. Now I'm taking 1 carbidopa and the Rytary, then 2 Rytary, and then 3 Rytary.
Wow.
And so
It's like half.
about half. And the Rytary is it's $1,700 a bottle. You find that out.
And how long does the bottle last?
A month.
A month.
About a month.
Wow.
1,700.
Jeez.
And that you find out when you've got an insurance like mine, where you pay the deductible first, and you keep paying till the deductible's paid. So you're paying full price for everything.
Right.
And that's when you find out what things really cost.
Medicare pay for anything?
Next year
Okay.
I'll be 65, and I don't know exactly what happens. I only got 3 years of railroad. I got a lot of crappy jobs that were for cash in between there, and they don't even want to talk about that.
Exactly.
And they want to talk about the value of Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you. How much do you think baby sitters would cost like that? That's your fault. You shouldn't have that
10
baby.
years ago it was $200 a week. I don't know what it is now. Probably three times that.
No, Mr. Mom is just a hearty.
Yeah, that's a good daddy.
Good
Yeah,
job.
That's right.
Good job.
Yeah.
No, it,
Wonderful. So you're gonna play, tell us what you're gonna play tomorrow night or tonight?
Monday.
At Monday night at.
Monday night at Mark's 60th birthday.
Yeah, yeah, what are you
Or
gonna do?
50th, I'm
50, he looks 60,
50th.
but we're gonna call him 50.
And knowing that, you know, we grew up together, to see him 60 really sucks. Really sucks.
Yeah, for me too.
Because I'm the old one in the neighborhood, you know.
Yeah,
You know, those are dog years back then.
Yeah.
19-year-old buying a 14-year-old beer.
yeah.
I don't care what age you're.
Yeah, they looked up to you.
What era you're in. I think that was looked down upon, frowned upon, you know. But
So besides Happy Birthday, what song are you gonna play to remind you guys of the good old days?
well, I've got stuff that I wrote for is Players Network. I've got a couple surprises as far as that
Nice.
goes. I hope we can get a keyboard over there. Somebody get a musical sponsor and somebody get a piano over there for me. And then
We still
that
may.
opens up a lot of doors, but because I've spent the last week giving myself major headaches trying to switch from piano to guitar.
Yeah,
It's just it never was easy. Come to find out, you know, and
Doug does stuff like Bruce Springsteen and The Who and Bob Seger and Stones and Neil
I'm
Young.
an Elvis, so you know,
oh yeah,
I'm
gotta do
a
Elvis
Vegas
in
singer.
Vegas, that's right.
I said
Yep.
backwards, but yeah, that's so I'm working on that stuff too. That's all stuff that, you know, I've got most of my act work on piano because it just sounds so much richer.
We'll see how some of the medicines that he got here works
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
you know,
hopefully that'll work for you.
we're gonna go see how that, you know,
I am
How
very
it
much.
plays out.
I was kind of hoping to do it before this session right here. Maybe we should have like a halftime.
Yes, we can do that and
Okay,
come
come
back.
back.
Or Mark can add it on and we can add it into the,
And all of a sudden you'll see the funny side of me.
yeah. Well, thank you for coming and nice to
My
meet you.
pleasure. Nice to meet you
Appreciate
too.
you. Thank you for
appreciate
bringing
you
it.
having.
Always a pleasure, Mark. All right, until next time, we'll tell you, thank you for joining us with Through My Lens.
And Frank bought the